the most terrifying things ever found on Australia. This was found on a beach in Australia, and no one could explain what it was. Today, we're counting down 20 of the most terrifying things ever found on Australia, ranked from the least disturbing to the discovery that left even experts without answers. Are you ready? Let's begin. Number 20. Strange shape on a quiet farm. Just after sunrise, on an Australian farm, a camera begins recording the quiet landscape. The animals remain still. The air is calm and the paddock stretches empty under the morning light. Then something appears in the distance, moving slowly across the field. At first, it looks like a dark shape crossing the grass, but its outline doesn't resemble any of the livestock normally kept on the property. As it shifts position, the movement becomes harder to interpret. The proportions seem unusual, and the figure doesn't clearly match any familiar animal. Some viewers think the camera angle is simply misleading. Others say the silhouette doesn't behave like anything they recognize. Number 19. The giant spider in the cave. Inside a public cave, visitors begin filming something unusual hidden among the shadows. Between the rocks, a spider becomes visible, its legs stretched far wider than expected. The body appears massive, almost too large for the narrow crevice where it sits. As the camera moves closer, the proportions start to look even stranger. Long limbs spread across the stone surface, creating the impression of something far bigger than an ordinary cave spider. For many viewers, the image immediately feels unsettling, almost like a creature from folklore rather than a real animal. Specialists say lighting and perspective inside caves can dramatically distort scale. Even a normal spider may appear enormous when filmed this way, but without clearer footage, the exact size of the creature remains uncertain. Number 18. The possible thylacine. Early morning light washes over a rural property in Australia. A camera set up to monitor livestock captures something unexpected, moving near the tree line. The figure stays low to the ground, crossing the edge of the property in near silence. Its gait doesn't clearly resemble a dog. The body shape doesn't perfectly match a fox either. For a few seconds, the animal moves across the frame before disappearing into the vegetation. The clip is brief, but it quickly spreads online and sparks debate among viewers and wildlife observers. Some argue the footage simply shows a known animal distorted by distance and lighting. Others suggest a far more controversial possibility, an animal many believe disappeared nearly a century ago. Number 17. Another possible Tasmanian tiger. At first light, a remote property camera captures movement near a fence line. An animal crosses the frame slowly, its body appearing thin and elongated as it moves through the grass. It pauses for a moment, scanning the area, then continues forward without any visible fear of the camera. When farmers reviewed the footage later, one detail caught their attention immediately: the tail. Stiff, held low, and moving in a way they didn't expect from the animals usually seen in the region. Wildlife specialists reviewing the clip couldn't reach a clear conclusion. Some suggested it was likely a dog or fox filmed under unusual conditions. Others pointed to a far more controversial possibility: an animal Australia officially declared extinct decades ago. Frame by frame, the footage keeps raising questions that remain unresolved. Number 16. The smiling spider. Scientists documenting unusual insects recorded a small white spider with striking red markings across its body. At first glance, the pattern appears almost impossible to ignore. Two red shapes resemble eyes, while a curved line beneath them forms something that looks like a smile. The image quickly spread online because many viewers felt the same reaction. The spider seems to be staring back with a strange expression. But researchers explain there is no mystery behind the pattern itself. This effect is known as pareidolia, a psychological phenomenon where the human brain automatically recognizes familiar shapes, especially faces, even when none actually exist. Nothing supernatural, just a natural marking that happens to trigger the mind in an unsettling way. Still, once you see the face, it's difficult to ignore it. Number 15. The pale figure in the paddock. Just after dawn, a farm surveillance camera activates on its own. The paddock appears empty at first, with only the quiet outline of fences and grass visible in the early light. Then a pale figure slowly emerges from the darker edge of the property. It moves across the ground at a steady pace, strangely calm, as if already familiar with the land. What unsettles many viewers isn't speed or aggression, but posture. The movement appears deliberate, controlled, and oddly composed. When the clip was later shared online, some quickly dismissed it as ordinary livestock captured from a confusing angle. Others pointed out details in the motion and shape that don't seem to match common farm animals. At first glance, it doesn't look frightening, but the longer the footage plays, the stranger it feels. Number 14. The night visitor at the goat farm. Before sunrise, a security camera watches over a quiet goat farm. The enclosure appears calm. No movement, no sound beyond the darkness surrounding the property. Then the animals begin reacting suddenly, shifting and backing away from something just outside the frame. Moments later, a pale figure enters view. Its shape is low to the ground, its features difficult to distinguish in the dim light. The figure doesn't rush or move erratically. Instead, it advances slowly, almost deliberately, across the pen. When the farmer later reviews the footage, several goats are found dead. There are no clear tracks nearby and no immediate explanation for what entered the enclosure that night. Some believe it was a known predator. Others insist the behavior doesn't match any of them. Number 13. The shadow in the livestock pen. Late at night, a rural farm falls completely silent. The CCTV camera continues recording the empty enclosure under dim lights. From the darkness beyond the fence, a tall shadow slowly enters the frame. Its outline immediately feels unusual, too narrow, too upright to clearly match the animals normally seen in the area. The figure moves closer to the livestock and then suddenly stops. It doesn't appear to notice the camera, watching from above. What unsettles viewers most is the reaction of the animals themselves. Instead of running, the livestock simply freeze, standing still as the shadow remains nearby. The clip ends before anything clearly happens, but by the following morning, something inside the enclosure is missing. Number 12. The living mass in the drain. Inside a bathroom sink, a camera records something strange emerging from the drain. A soft pink mass slowly pushes upward through the metal opening. Its surface glistens under the light, shifting slightly as it expands. At first, it resembles a thick gel or residue, but the movement makes it appear almost alive. The texture changes as it spreads outward, pulsing gently while clinging to the edges of the drain. Plumbers and maintenance specialists say formations like this can sometimes be biofilm or certain types of mold that grow in damp pipes. But in this case, no confirmed analysis was ever shared with the video. What unsettles viewers most isn't the explanation. It's simply watching the mass slowly move on its own. Number 11. The figure avoiding the light. In the early hours of the morning, a rural security camera detects motion near a quiet property. At first, the movement appears to be nothing more than a shifting shadow cast by distant light. But then the shape begins to move across the frame on its own, gliding silently along the edge of the yard. The proportions immediately seem unusual. The arms appear long, the torso narrow, and the posture strangely upright. What unsettles many viewers is the way the figure moves through the darker areas, keeping just outside the strongest light. The farmer later stated that no animals had escaped that night and no people were present on the property. The footage remains unexplained. Number 10. The motionless cloud. High above the landscape, a camera captures a strange detail in the sky. Clouds drift slowly with the wind, stretching and shifting across the horizon. But one formation behaves differently. A dark cloud remains fixed in place while everything around it continues moving. For several seconds, the contrast becomes difficult to ignore. The surrounding sky changes constantly, yet the dark mass appears almost perfectly still. The footage quickly spreads online, drawing attention from viewers trying to interpret what they're seeing. Some suggest unusual wind layers at different altitudes. Others believe it could be a visual illusion caused by perspective. There are no official records explaining the exact moment captured in the clip, only a brief anomaly that left even weather enthusiasts questioning what they saw. Number 9. The shadow outside the enclosure. Shortly before sunrise, a farmer begins reviewing footage recorded by a security camera during the night. Inside the enclosure, the animals appear restless, shifting nervously as something moves just beyond the fence. A faint shape becomes visible along the edge of the frame, staying low to the ground and partially hidden by darkness. For a few seconds, it seems to crawl slowly along the outside of the pen, barely visible between shadows and fence posts. Then the livestock suddenly panic, scattering across the enclosure while the camera continues recording. Whatever triggered the reaction never fully appears in the open. By the next morning, several animals are found dead. No obvious wounds, no clear predator identified. Number 8. The upright critter. A farm camera activates as the sky begins to lighten over the property. Near the ground, a small shape moves along the edge of the frame, partially hidden by grass and shadow. For a brief moment, the animal rises upright before dropping back down again. The motion looks quick and slightly jerky, unlike the typical movements expected from common wildlife in the area. The clip itself lasts only a few seconds, but viewers repeatedly replay the same frames, trying to understand the figure's exact shape. Some initially suggested familiar animals, such as raccoons or foxes. Yet when the footage is slowed down, the proportions appear difficult to match with those explanations. Curiosity slowly turns into unease. Number 7. The crossing in the Adelaide Hills. As the sun begins to rise, a farm camera records something moving across open ground. At first, the shape appears animal-like, crossing the field at a steady pace. Then it suddenly changes direction, deliberately, almost as if reacting to something outside the frame. Its movement remains smooth and controlled. There's no sign of panic or sudden flight. When viewers pause the footage frame by frame, the outline becomes the most debated detail. The proportions appear balanced and unusually symmetrical. Locals familiar with wildlife in the region reviewed the clip but struggled to confidently identify the animal. The figure eventually disappears behind the tree line. Whatever crossed that field, it never once broke into a run. Number 6. The figure at the pen door. At sunrise on a farm in Pará, Brazil, a worker begins filming because something is already moving near the animal pen. At first, the camera only captures frantic motion near the doorway, fast, low to the ground, and difficult to distinguish clearly. The sheep inside react instantly, shifting and crowding away from the entrance, while the camera begins to shake. Then the figure suddenly rushes toward the opening of the pen. In the next moment, it appears to get stuck in the doorway, its head pushing through the gap as if it forced its way inside too quickly. For several seconds, the shape remains trapped in place. That brief pause is what makes the clip so debated. Number 5. The tall figure among the sheep. A farm worker places his phone nearby to record the flock grazing quietly in the field. For several moments, nothing unusual happens. The animals move slowly, the scene calm under the open sky. Then a tall silhouette steps into view near the edge of the field. At first, it appears as little more than a dark outline, but as it moves forward, the shape becomes clearer. Long limbs, broad shoulders, and a height that seems to tower over the sheep nearby. The worker quietly comments while filming, uncertain about what he's looking at. Some viewers online suggested the figure resembles Bigfoot. Others believe it may simply be a primate or animal distorted by lighting and distance. Whatever crossed the field that day didn't seem afraid of the animals watching it. Number 4. The creature in the barn. In the dead of night, a farmer quietly checks inside his barn. The building appears still at first, lit only by the weak glow of a nearby light. Then something suddenly moves across the floor. The shape is low and compact, somewhat like a wolf moving through the shadows. But as it crosses the frame, the proportions seem unusual. The body appears squat and uneven, and for a brief moment, the camera catches its face, eyes reflecting the light with an intense, unsettled look. The creature quickly scurries across the barn floor before disappearing from view. For a split second, the footage reveals details that viewers continue debating. Was it a strange rodent-like animal, an injured predator, or something harder to identify? Number 3. The sudden sinkhole. Without warning, the ground suddenly collapses. A massive sinkhole opens in seconds, swallowing part of the land where solid ground stood only moments before. There is no explosion, no machinery nearby, just the earth giving way beneath its own weight. Dust rises as the surface breaks apart, revealing a deep cavity forming beneath the soil. Events like this can occur when underground layers slowly erode over time, creating empty spaces beneath the surface. When the upper ground can no longer support itself, it collapses instantly. But seeing it happen in real time makes the danger far more unsettling. A quiet reminder that even stable ground can fail without warning. Number 2. The humanoid in the barn. In the middle of the night, a man walks into his barn after hearing unusual noise from the animals. The pigs inside are restless, squealing and shifting, as if something has disturbed them. Then a tall, thin figure suddenly appears inside the structure. The shape stands upright, its eyes fixed directly toward the man holding the camera. It doesn't roar or make any visible aggressive movement. Instead, it begins moving slowly forward, with steady, deliberate steps. The man backs away while filming. The figure continues advancing without hesitation. When the camera turns toward it again, the figure is closer, staring directly into the lens. For a moment, it feels as if it wasn't there just seconds before. Number 1. The flying creature and the dog. In the middle of the night, a security camera records a dog tied near a wooden beam outside a rural property in Australia. The dog suddenly begins barking toward the sky, reacting to something above the yard. Moments later, a large dark shape appears overhead. Its outline spreads wide, resembling the wings of a massive bat. The creature suddenly dives toward the ground, forcing the dog back against the beam where it is tied. For a brief moment, the animal is cornered while the dark figure moves around it. Then the creature grabs hold and lifts upward. The rope tied to the beam snaps as the dog is pulled off the ground and carried into the air. Within seconds, both vanish into the darkness.